Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Dang Vishupad Paramahamsa Parivradika Sarjastotra Satta Sri Simad His Divine Grace Hiraboy Charanaravind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skandi Biti Founder Acharyas Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Tiny Tagore Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Taksuranmiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitam Scha Hai Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Dharam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the Supremost Human Being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed or practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, it becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasaya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Siva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vasaram pangom rangayate girim. Yat kripat maham vande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yat kripat maham vande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Special welcome from those coming from far away. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from, this is continuing?
Yes.
Yeah. From the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter 18, entitled Description of Varnasrama-dharma. I have two books. One is speaking about Varnasrama. The other one is also speaking about Varnasrama in Russian. You can bring them here, yeah. Which text?
42.
42. Okay. So 11, 18, text 42. Bhikshor. Bhikshor. Dharma. Shamu. Ahimsa. Tapa. Iksha. Vanokasha. Grihino. Bhuta. Raksheja. Dvijasya charya. Sevanam. Bhikshor dharma shamohimsa. Tapa iksha vanokasha. Grihino bhutta raksheja. Dvijasya charya sevanam. Bhikshor dharma shamohimsa. Tapa iksha vanokasha. Grihino bhutta raksheja. Dvijasya charya sevanam. Bhikshor dharma shamohimsa. Tapa iksha vanokasha. Grihino bhutta raksheja. Dvijasya charya sevanam.
Bhiksho dharma shamo ahimsa.
Bhiksho dharma samo himsa.
Tapa iksha vanokasha.
Tapa iksha vanokasha.
Grihino bodharaksheja.
Grihino bodharaksheja.
Dvijascharya sevanam.
Vijashacharya sevanam. Bhiksho dharma shamo himsa.
Bhiksho dharma shamo himsa.
Tapa iksha vanokasha.
Tapa iksha vanokasha.
Grihino bhutaraksheja.
Grihino bhutaraksheja.
Vijashacharya sevanam.
Vijascharya sevanam.
Bhiksho dharma samo himsa.
Bhiksho dharma shamo himsa.
Tapa iksha vanokasha.
Tapa iksha vanokasha.
Grihino bhutaraksheja.
Grihino bhutaraksheja.
Vijascharya sevanam.
Vijascharya sevanam.
Bhiksho dharma samo himsa.
Bhiksho dharma shamo himsa.
Tapa iksha vanokasha.
Tapa iksha vanokasha.
Grihino bhutaraksheja.
Grihino bhutaraksheja.
Vijascharya sevanam.
Vijascharya sevanam.
Bhiksho
Bhiksho
of a sannyasi.
of the sannyasi.
Dharma,
Dharma,
the main religious principle.
the main religious principles.
Shamaha,
Shamaha,
equanimity.
equanimity.
Ahimsa,
Ahimsa,
non-violence.
non-violence.
Tapaha,
Tapaha,
austerity.
austerity.
Iksha,
Diksha,
discrimination
discrimination
between the body and the soul.
between the body and the soul.
Vana,
Vana,
in the forest.
in the forest.
Okashaha,
Okasaha,
of one dwelling.
of one dwelling.
A vanaprastha.
Vanaprastha.
Grihinaha,
Grihinaha,
of a householder.
of a householder.
Bhutaraksha,
Bhutaraksha,
offering shelter to all living entities.
offering shelter to all living entities.
Ijja,
Ijya,
performance of sacrifice.
performance of sacrifice.
Dvijasya,
Dvijasya,
of a brahmachari.
of a brahmachari.
Acharya,
Acharya,
the spiritual master.
spiritual master.
Sevanam,
Sevanam,
serving.
serving.
Translation and purport by the followers of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The main religious duties of a sannyasi are equanimity and non-violence, whereas for the vanaprastha, austerity and philosophical understanding of the difference between the body and soul are prominent. The main duties of a householder are to give shelter to all living entities and perform sacrifices. And the brahmachari is mainly engaged in serving the spiritual master. Kindly repeat after me. The main religious duties
The main religious duties
of a sannyasi
of a sannyasi
are equanimity and non-violence,
are equanimity and non-violence,
whereas for the vanaprastha,
whereas for the vanaprastha,
austerity and philosophical understanding
austerity and philosophical understanding
of the difference between the body and soul
of the difference between the body and the soul
are prominent.
are prominent.
The main duties of a householder
The main duties of a householder
are to give shelter
are to give shelter
to all living entities
to all living entities
and perform sacrifices,
and perform sacrifices,
and the brahmachari
and the brahmachari
is mainly engaged
is mainly engaged
in serving the spiritual master.
in serving the spiritual master.
Purport. The brahmachari lives in the ashram of the spiritual master and personally assists the acharya. Householders generally are entrusted with the performance of sacrifice and deity worship and should provide maintenance for all living entities. The vanaprastha must clearly understand the difference between body and soul in order to maintain his status of renunciation. And he should also perform austerities. The sannyasi should fully absorb his body, mind, and words in self-realization. Having thus achieved equanimity of mind, he is the best well-wisher of all living entities. Translation again. The main religious duties of a sannyasi are equanimity and non-violence, whereas for the vanaprastha, austerity and philosophical understanding of the difference between the body and soul are prominent. The main duties of a householder are to give shelter to all living entities and perform sacrifices. And the brahmachari is mainly engaged in serving the spiritual master. So this chapter, entitled Description of Varnasrama-dharma, is giving further insights mm, on the subject matter of Varnasrama. It is actually, this is 11th canto, so we know that in the 7th canto there's a very large section, actually 7th canto, 4 or 5 chapters, chapter 11 to 15, right? The last 5 chapters give us a description of the by Narada Muni of Varnasrama. So here in the 11th canto, chapter 18, it is directly Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is discussing the same subject matter with Uddhava. Uddhava, as we know, is a very close and intimate devotee of the Lord. And so in this verse we're reading today, it is referring to the different ashramas, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas, and what their respective duties and responsibilities are. We cannot avoid actually speaking about, nor should we also avoid living and acting based on these principles, even though we are endeavoring, all of us, to become Vaishnavas. When one attains the perfectional stage of Vaishnavism, then all of these different, we could say, guidelines or rules and regulations that we find both within the varnas and the ashramas, they become, we could say, secondary. That means that one may sometimes follow or may not follow. But we all know that it is not so easy to be on that perfectional stage of pure devotional service. And therefore, as instructed by all of our acharyas, beginning with Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who has given very clear indications in that respect. One very, I would say, revealing quote or statement, I'm sure you've heard it before, by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who mentions how the system of Varnasrama is for the Vaishnavas in their conditioned state. We may not like to hear that. Condition. But that is the reality. And this is nicely explained also in the small and still yet to be published, and therefore still somewhat unknown essay of Gita Nagari. How many have read Gita Nagari essay? One? Gita Nagari? Not read. You know about Gita Nagari essay. So why are you not reading? Actually very important. In that essay, Srila Prabhupada speaks about what is being discussed here, about the different ashramas. And somewhat noteworthy in that essay, Prabhupada is actually telling, we will not encourage people to take sannyas or to remain brahmacharis. Don't mind. Yeah. Because, well, that goes back to the late 50s, when Prabhupada was a householder and had already started writing his Back to Godhead magazine in the year 1944. 1944. Prabhupada was 48 years old, still a young man. Till you reach 50, you're still a young man. So, in 1944. So, 1956 is when the essay of Gita Nagari appeared, was published in his Back to Godhead magazine. But some of the important statements that Srila Prabhupada had made in his essay of Gita Nagari were actually, we could say, revealed even earlier, like 7 years earlier, in 1949. 1949, there's a very important letter. I suppose if you've not read Gita Nagari, you haven't read that letter also. There's a very important letter in the folio. You can find it in the folio. Gita Nagari is also in the folio. And bless your soul if you don't know what the folio is. The folio, also known as the Veda base, is the base to know about Veda, Veda base. So all of Prabhupada's letters and books and writings and conversations are in the folio. It's very, for anyone who wants to do even a little research, it's like very, very practical, very important. And they keep adding over the years. They've added different material. So in the Veda base, we find the both this essay on Gita Nagari and this very important letter of 1949, which was written by Srila Prabhupada, of course, to Dr. Patel, who was the deputy minister for India at the time. And it is within that letter of 1949 that Srila Prabhupada introduces the whole concept of four movements. Everyone has heard about the four movements? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not difficult to remember. What are the four movements? What's the first movement?
Sankirtan movement.
Sankirtan movement. What does Sankirtan movement mean? Books and prasadam. Anything else? The holy name. Yeah. Beginning with the holy name, actually. Sankirtan movement means the holy name, and then an extension of the holy name, the Brihat Mridanga, transcendental books. Second movement? Temple worship movement, yeah, establishing temples. And the third movement? Spiritual initiation movement. Spiritual initiation movement. This has to become like stamped in there. Spiritual initiation movement. What does that mean? It means?
Getting connected to the parampara.
Yes. How to connect to the parampara? By taking diksha, yeah, initiation, by taking initiation. Spiritual initiation means to actually train what we have in our society now as congregational preaching. Different types of congregation. Youth preaching is congregational preaching. Bhaktivedanta Institute is also congregational preaching, aimed at the scientists. Life membership is another congregational preaching. Bhakta Vriksha, Namhata, these are all congregational preaching with the idea of those who are fortunate to become serious, they'll take initiation and become connected in Guru Parampara. And now the difficult question. What is the fourth movement called? Classless society. What does that mean? Well, that's easy to say, Varnasrama. What does classless society actually mean? Many people, when they first hear it, they will say, Haribol, no more Varnasrama. Classless. Don't have to tax our brain to figure out about, yeah. So classless. Normally, classless means no class, right? Actually, Prabhupada uses the word sometimes classless, and sometimes he uses the word casteless. No caste. No caste, no class. Clash. Class, rather, yeah. So classless society, unfortunately, does not mean no classes. But it means that regardless of which class, regardless of which varna, class means for social classes and for spiritual classes, as we know, means for varnas and then for ashramas. Regardless of which of these classes we belong to, everyone is on the same, we could say, platform in that they are all practicing devotees, isn't it? Everyone is meant to be engaged in activities of devotional service. Everyone is, in other words, an aspiring Vaishnava. So therefore, the more we are actually practicing as Vaishnavas, then there is less, meant to be, less conflict. The more conflict there is, then that's an indication that there is something missing, lacking. Yeah. So, so within that system, even as Vaishnavas, because as I was mentioning a few minutes ago, according to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, yeah, even one tinge, one small connection with the modes of material nature, if we have, then we should work within the system of Varna and Ashrama. So these are the guidelines that are being given here. Brahmachari should primarily be focused on serving the spiritual master. Traditionally, brahmacharis would travel with the spiritual master and would engage in various services. That is the main service for brahmacharis. Then householders engage in deity worship, and also it mentions that actually brahmachari, the grihasthas have a big responsibility. What's their big responsibility? They have to look after the brahmacharis and the vanaprastha and the sannyasis. So it's like, householders are, 1/4 of the society has to look after the 3/4. And then, of course, vanaprastha have to, especially, as mentioned here, deepen their understanding of the difference between the soul and the body. Means they have to strive for more and more self-realization, more and more renunciation or detachment. So tapasya is the feature in vanaprastha, retired life. And then, of course, sannyas life is meant for especially traveling, preaching, and seeing all living entities as spirit souls, and ultimately as devotees, devotees of the Lord who need to receive this knowledge, who need to receive not only transcendental knowledge, and this is a point that comes up that I find myself having to explain at different times, that the duties, who are the two prominent preachers within, let's say, Vedic culture, within the system of Varnasrama. I mean, everyone, if one takes up to the Vaishnava practice, all Vaishnavas can be and should be preachers. But within that system of Varnasrama, the two more prominent persons who are meant to preach are, number one, sannyasis, and then brahmanas. And of course, generally, I mean, sannyasis are automatically brahmanas, but there are many brahmanas who are not sannyasis. A majority of brahmanas are not sannyasis. And one of the important features or duties, responsibilities of brahmanas is to share brahminical knowledge, to teach. Brahmanas are the teachers within society. So that is one of the important aspects that we are very much in need of teachers, who understand about both spiritual dharma and material dharma. That's a whole big topic in itself, of course. And you might be surprised to hear that actually, I would say there are more devotees who fall in the category of knowing more about spiritual dharma than there are who know about material dharma. Is that good or bad? Is that true or false?
It depends on the level of consciousness.
Of course. So I'm saying that the majority, from my observations, we have more devotees who are in that spiritual consciousness in terms of spiritual swadharma, and we have a smaller percentage of devotees who are in material swadharma. Material swadharma and Maya is different. Material consciousness and material swadharma is different. And I think too many of our devotees make the mistake of equating them, because sometimes we hear, well, why bother about Varnashram? It's something material. Well, why Krishna is bothering speaking about it in the Bhagavatam if it's material? I mean, normally material we think not so important. We think material Maya, right? We equate material to Maya. But actually it's not like that. Matter, material world, material energy is Krishna's creation, therefore it is important, and it's especially important for all of us who are here in the material world. How to cope or what to do, how to properly channel or utilize that energy. And our Vedic literatures are giving us very detailed information about this. It's like, what food we should eat, when we should eat, how we should eat, in what consciousness, etc. If we don't, we may say, well, it's something material. It is material. Of course, as devotees, we learn to connect everything material. But if we don't know how to properly channel that energy, then we will end up creating problems for ourselves and then for others. It's like new people in the West especially who learn about vegetarianism. And some of them are very enthusiastic, and then they start eating salads only for for a few months and then they fall sick. And then they give up vegetarianism because they haven't properly learned what it actually means to be a vegetarian. If they come to a Hare Krishna temple for Sunday feast, they'll find out. Oh, it's like that. It's not only salad. Yeah. So, learning how to cook the vegetarian way, not the vegan way, the vegetarian way, is a whole art and science. Right? So in other words, we speak about the art and the science of, we have to tell Vasudhan Prabhu to put a clock up here somewhere.
8:56.
Huh?
8:56.
56, okay. Yeah. So, yes, so in other words, I'll just finish on this point here. I have 2 points to make, actually. That within our society, if we mainly and especially if we exclusively only focus on the spiritual aspect, the spiritual, what we call spiritual swadharma, which is, of course, relating to the practice of devotional service, bhakti, which is, of course, the essence. But if we neglect the material swadharma, as we are, then it creates an imbalance. And anything which is not balanced will create problems, isn't it? Yeah. So therefore, the importance, that's one of the reasons Srila Prabhupada wanted us to establish Varnashram colleges. I received a letter just a few days ago, out of the blue, as they say. I mean, unexpected, from a devotee couple in Sweden. I didn't get a chance to reply yet. And for the last 10 years, Sweden gets cold in Sweden. I mean, many of the Western countries, just like in Kazakhstan, where I was visiting recently, you arrive there, it's like 20 below zero. And if you're dressed like an Indian, you understand what 20 below zero means. Yeah. So even though there are devotees in such, we could say, unfavorable conditions, they are, like this couple who wrote to me from Sweden, they've been, for the last 10 years, introducing many aspects of self-sufficiency, etc. And they wrote specifically asking, can we start a Varnashram college? I mean, there are people who are thinking about that, and I'm always very happy to find out about it and to help in whatever way. And the last point being, when I was in the, where was I? Yeah. I was at the Sri Vrindavan-Dham farm. Very nice place, actually. It's about 1 hour outside of a city called, the city used to be the capital of Kazakhstan, called Almaty city. And I was giving the Bhagavatam class just a couple of days ago, and I was telling them, this book is very important, because we ended up talking about Varnashram. You should get a copy of Speaking About Varnashram. Of course, everyone there speaks Russian, Kazakhstan is like Russian, used to be under the Soviet Union. And they told me, Maharaj, we have the book in Russian language. I said, wow. It just came like a week ago, and this is the book. So it's like since the last couple of years, we've been having discussions with some devotees in Russia of the importance of getting this book printed. Yeah, it's worth a photo. And then, as you can see, hardbound. And this is one of the original pictures of Gitanagari farm in Pennsylvania. Yeah, Prabhupada is here. And this is one devotee who was like the main farmer, Paramahamsa. Yeah, Paramahamsa, very knowledgeable. This goes back to, like 40 years, 50 years practically. Prabhupada used to visit actually and encourage devotees. He visited Vrindavan, as we know, Gita Nagari, New Talavan. He visited New Mayapur in France also, encouraging the devotees. You don't have to work so hard, just chant Hare Krishna and, the potatoes will come. Or whatever. So this is very significant because now so many people, a lot of people speak Russian language, not only in Russia, outside of Russia. And so this book is, it's also available, I believe, in French now. And, well, it's ongoing in Bengali. I have to find out what's happening with that. But these are very important instructions given to us, all of us, by Srila Prabhupada. Okay, any questions or comments from either brahmacharis, householders, vanaprasthas, or sannyasis? Everything clear. Tell Vasudam Prabhu, he forgot something. Oh, God. Serious about paying obeisances? So this is a hardbound, and we printed like this monster. Not monster, but I mean big, very big, compared to yeah, I can close.